culture is basically the rules and norms about how we live our lives. In kindergarten, we're taught to line up. Like, that's a cultural norm that doesn't exist in other countries. Another example would be if I'm visiting somebody's house and they offer me something to eat or drink, I will say yes or no, depending on how hungry or thirsty I am. But in other cultures, you don't say yes until they've offered it to you 2 or 3 times. That's culturally normal. So these are the kinds of things you don't know about your own culture until you're exposed to difference, until you're presented with a contrast. And I think that's one of the really cool things about engaging in these exchange opportunities is you start to notice those kind of unspoken rules that you don't ordinarily pay attention to.
Welcome to Imperfect Momming. Our children are constantly looking to us for examples. The term role model doesn't quite cut it here. We are shaping their worldview with every move we make. You see, it's not in the lectures we give or moments where we're actively attempting to teach them. It's in the micro movements we make, the unconscious ways in which we navigate life. We are constantly teaching our children how to show up for themselves, their friends, their future partners, and even their future children. So what can we do to ensure we are raising thoughtful, compassionate, self-aware human beings? We have to become them ourselves. No one is perfect, but we can all still be better, and it starts with self-healing. Let's get to it.
Welcome back to Imperfect Momming, and I am your host, Alicia Lyons, and we have a very special guest today, Jennifer Robin Wilson. That's a mouthful. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
I was like, it's getting tripped up in my mouth.
It's all good.
Tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Thanks, Alicia. Yeah, it's great to be here. So I am a leadership coach and business consultant, and I'm also an author. I have a book that just came out about 2 weeks ago, and I love what I do. I think I love this blend of being able to spend time writing, kind of focused on what I want to share with the world, but also having time to work with people and teams, which is really satisfying for me.
Yes, I am also an author and a coach, and so like having the ability to kind of do both and just balance your day with the things that like need to get done versus the things that we want to do, and hopefully some of the things that we need to get done are also things that we want to do.
That's right. Nice. Yeah, that's right. One of the things that I'm a certified Kolbe Consultant. I don't know if you've heard of Kolbe. It's spelled Kolbe. It's an assessment tool. It's not a personality test. It measures how we get things done, how we strive, how we problem solve. Yeah. And some people definitely need a role or a job that is very routine based, very repetitive, very structured and organized. And I'm not like that. I like to have my time to myself. I like to start my day at different times. I like to have flexibility. I like to be able to create my own schedule, basically. So, and that's one of the things that Kolbe measures. So yeah, knowing that about yourself and what kind of role is important for you and fits with your work style, I think it's really important.
That is really cool. I will have to take the assessment, and you sound a lot like me, and except for I actually do like to wake up at the same time every day. I like my morning routine to be the same, and then I want the rest of the day to like flow and be in, whatever's on the calendar is fine, but like the in between parts be like my choice.
Yeah. That's not untypical. And it's so each of these, there's measures for different things, and each of them has a scale of 1 to 10. So you might be somewhere in the middle on that particular one. Yeah.
Interesting. I'll have to do that later. But tell me a little bit about your book and what it's about.
Yeah. So the book is called The Heart of Homestay. There it is. It's a book that is a labor of love, as many books are. It's meant to help host families who bring international students into their home make the most of their experience. So if you haven't heard of Homestay, this is an accommodation option for foreign exchange students. And they come to Canada, the US, Australia, the UK, from other countries to study English or to attend high school or to go to university or college. And as part of that, they need a place to live. And many students, especially minors in high school programs, like to work or to live with local families because it gives them a chance to improve their English and get acclimated to the culture and learn about what life is like for local families. And my background in why I wrote this book is that my mother, Robin, started a company called Canada Homestay Network in 1995. So we're celebrating our 30th anniversary this year. And so I worked with my mom starting in 2005. I joined the family business and then took over from her about 5 years later and then ran the company as the CEO for about 12 years. And I just stepped back about 2 years ago, but I'm the chair of the board now because my parents and I still own the business. So I combine, over 20 years of experience working in international education with dozens of interviews that I did with students and host families and research that I did on everything from psychology to cross-cultural communication to bias, and combine all of that with this collection of stories because we learn best through storytelling. So I share a lot of stories and anecdotes of real people, real families and their experiences, and use those stories to help people understand better themselves and how to get along with people from other cultures and really make the most of their experience. So yeah, that's what the book's about.
Very cool. And yes, we do learn from stories best. And I'm just thinking, I have known people, it's been a while since I've met someone that did an exchange program. I've never heard the term homestay.
Mm-hmm.
And then while you were talking, I was like, what would be what's the biggest motivation for people to do this exchange program?
Yeah. So the biggest motivation for host families to sign up to host, I think it sort of falls into three categories. One is that they want to help the students. They might be immigrants themselves, or maybe they traveled abroad when they were in high school or university, and they know what it's like to live in another culture. And they want to provide kind of a safe, soft landing pad for students to support them through this experience. A lot of families have young kids and they want to open their homes to someone from another culture to teach their kids about diversity. And this is a great way to travel without leaving home, really. So you get to learn about other cultures and learn about other foods. And lots of our hosts just absolutely love the opportunity to expose their kids to difference and to celebrate difference that way. Yeah. And then I think the third reason is that it's good for our communities, supporting international education in many cases, especially in Canada. I think it's probably the same in the US. Foreign students are a really important source of revenue for schools, and it helps them keep the doors open. There's declining enrollment in a lot of places, and these students are a really important piece of the fabric of our community and help us understand, again, what it's like to live with other people and get along with others who are different.
What great lessons for children to learn. And I don't know, have you read Matthew McConaughey's book that he wrote? I don't remember what it's called, but he was a foreign exchange student and he went from here to Australia. And so he has kind of a funny story of where he ended up, and I think he ended up changing houses because the first family was a little on the strange side, and so
that's fun. Yeah, no, I haven't read that book, but that sounds pretty common in terms of people having great experiences. my book, the title, The Heart of Homestay, is really meant to emphasize the positive aspects of these experiences. People's lives are transformed by them. And I have countless examples of families who keep in touch with their students long after they go back home and are invited to Japan or Thailand or Brazil for a wedding or, graduation ceremonies. And yeah, they stay in touch for decades after having, in some cases, only lived together for a few months. So it's really quite remarkable how deep these bonds are and how powerful the connections are that people form. Yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah, it is really cool because there's, we don't always get to experience other cultures. There's obviously the United States where I'm at. I'm assuming you're in Canada.
Yeah.
where I'm at, there, we're kind of the melting pot. And so there's different cultures everywhere, but it might not be very easy to get into these other cultures. And my son, he's 13 now, but at one point he was asked to do like cultural day and what culture is he? And I mean, I think at this point we're fourth generation here. And on my side or on my dad's side, like, and then my mom we've been here way longer, and his dad, same thing. Like and I'm like, is American a culture? Can we be like American today?
It's such a great question. And one of the things that I talk about in the book when it comes to learning about culture and understanding culture is that the first step is to understand our own culture, in fact. And the best way to behave in ways that facilitate understanding is to understand where you're coming from and what your norms are. And we're taught our culture from a very young age, right? From when we're children. And we're taught those culture is basically the rules and norms about how we live our lives. What's considered okay and what's not okay, really, is kind of a very simplified way of putting it. It's not just about how we dress or the food we eat or what we dance to or the music we listen to. It's everything from, like in kindergarten, we're taught to line up. Like that's a cultural norm that doesn't exist in other countries. Another example would be if I'm visiting somebody's house and they offer me something to eat or drink, I will say yes or no, depending on how hungry or thirsty I am. But in other cultures, you don't say yes until they've offered it to you 2 or 3 times. That's culturally normal. So these are the kinds of things you don't know about your own culture until you're exposed to difference, until you're presented with a contrast. And I think that's one of the really cool things about engaging in these exchange opportunities is you start to notice those kind of unspoken rules that you don't ordinarily pay attention to. You just assume that these are like universal things that everybody does or everybody knows. Yeah.
And what's really funny about that too is that we can have different cultures inside our own family.
100%.
One of my like biggest learning experiences when I first started dating my husband was his birthday, and how my family, when we grew up, the birthday person cut the cake and passed it out. And in his family, you're, princess or prince, and you don't lift a finger and you're waited on. And so when I handed him the knife to cut his own cake, he was like, what is happening right now?
It's so true. Yeah. So culture is informed obviously at a national level, but also regional. It can be municipal, and for sure it's family based. And as you just showed, different families coming together in marriage, you have to reconcile some of those things for sure. Yeah.
So do both families have to learn about the culture prior to the student coming, or is it like they learn and you kind of learn by experience?
It's more the latter. Yeah. So when we match a student with a family. We'll obviously tell them in advance before they arrive. So a lot of families will kind of do a little crash course in that particular culture. Like, I have a Japanese student, I'm going to learn about, etiquette in Japan, for example. But that, and that can go a certain way to, it helps obviously with kind of the initial adjustment. But as I say, a lot of these things just take time and experience for you to kind of, for them to reveal themselves as you go through it. So a lot of the stuff that I talk about the book is just raising awareness about how much culture touches all different parts of our lives, and reminding hosts that things that might annoy them about a student living with them may not be a personality-based behavior. Like, don't be annoyed at that particular student for how they're acting, because it could be culturally informed. So, for example, in Brazil, it's really common for people to take multiple showers a day. And so we have Brazilian students who come to Canada and they want to shower 2 or 3 times a day. And the hosts are like, you're wasting all this water, and why are you showering so much? And you got to stop. But that would, telling a student to stop showering is like, it would, like, can you imagine how hard that would be for that student to adjust to this new life, and to understand that that's irritating for their host family. So, that's a good example, again, of hosts needing to kind of step back and say, well, this isn't just about somebody, wasting water. It's this is a very deeply culturally informed habit that is going to take them some time to adjust to this new expectation. Yeah.
That is super irritating. I said irritating, but interesting. I was like, I would be irritated by somebody with all the water. Take multiple showers a day. And I know that other countries have that siesta break in the middle, and so it would be an adjustment to come to America. Or I don't think you do in Canada have the siesta break.
No, we don't. Yeah, and that's opens up a whole other world around food, and because the siesta break is often after a very large midday meal. And then, like in Mexico, for example, they eat their dinner sort of closer to 9 or 10 o'clock at night. And it's a very small meal. So students who come here and are given like a sandwich and a drink and a piece of fruit for lunch are like, what is going on right now? And then they eat this huge meal at 6 o'clock. It's like, this is a very biological, like they need to adjust their body and how they digest food and when they eat, and so it's lots of adjustments for the kids coming in, and I think given how much they have to adjust, and by the way, they're learning a new language throughout the whole experience too, having a lot of compassion for these kids and what they're going through and how difficult that is, really helps to remind hosts that they need to kind of park their judgment, and just get really curious. We can't hold judgment and curiosity in our minds at the same time. So I really encourage hosts, when they're feeling triggered, when they feel like annoyed, or they're like, oh my gosh, we have to, this is a lot of adjustment for us. It's like, yeah, but look at what your student is going through, put yourself in their shoes and get really curious about what the experience is like for them. And then it really helps to kind of modulate that irritation, if that's what they're feeling.
What a cool opportunity for growth, because
absolutely
there's different opportunities of growth in our lifetime, but like, for example, becoming a parent is a huge growth opportunity. And then having some person that you don't know staying with you for how long do they usually stay? A year?
It can depend on the program. So some of our students are only here for a few weeks, like they might be in a 4-week language learning program, for example. Others will come for an entire semester or a whole school year. And some of the students who come sort of in grade 9 or 10 might stay for their entire high school experience. So they might be here for several years and then carry on through into a university or college program. So it can really vary. Yeah. But yeah, they could, for however long they're here. Yeah, exactly. It's a huge growth opportunity. Yeah.
Is there a piece of advice that you have for moms listening?
Yeah. So one of the things that I think really crosses over from homestay into all kind of parenting, whether or not you're hosting an exchange student, is this idea of normalizing discomfort and normalizing failure. So it's uncomfortable to, as you say, welcome a stranger into your home and put yourself in a position of having to learn new things and make mistakes. It's uncomfortable to share your home with someone who has different habits with you or whose interests don't align with yours. It's uncomfortable to communicate with people who might misunderstand you. Really challenging the status quo of your life. I mean, becoming a parent is uncomfortable. And I think that if we can normalize discomfort, if we can say, first of all, understand that when you're uncomfortable, these are moments for growth and learning, and this is an opportunity to be a leader. And I think as parents and as hosts, if we embrace that and understand that we're actually leading in those moments and that you're reaching your potential by stretching yourself like that, I think that's really a great way to reframe it. And then to say to your kids and your spouse, I believe that growth and learning are uncomfortable. It's a normal part of the learning process. It's an expectation of being in this family. You're not alone, right? I think that can really be a powerful way to shift your experience as a parent. And I think too, it's the same with failure, that if we remind ourselves that people are going to let us down, people are going to make mistakes. And that goes for our kids and ourselves and our students all the same. Like we're screwing up as parents all the time, aren't we?
Mm-hmm.
So understanding that there's potential for growth can really transform a failure from something that feels like a loss or a setback into something that's an opportunity, a lesson. And remind ourselves that sometimes these failures are preventable and feel unproductive. But the value in, again, practicing feeling okay about the fact that mistakes will happen. When you feel okay about your mistakes, it's easier to confront them and to learn from them. It's easier to admit them. So it's normal to feel embarrassed or shame or guilt when we make mistakes or when things go wrong. But when we can start to kind of see them as opportunities for growth again, then it can be quite transformative.
Yeah, that's been a reoccurring theme that's come up a couple of times, and a previous guest had recommended a book called The Gift of Failure, and for children but for adults too. But if we learn it when we're kids, it's much less of a learning curve than when we're adults trying to learn that there's a gift in failure if you're willing to look for it and look at it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's a book I really like called The Right Kind of Wrong, The Science of Failing Well. And the author is Amy Edmondson, and she's one of the people who popularized the notion of psychological safety. And if any of your listeners work in offices, you might have heard of this term, which is often used in a business context. Psychological safety is defined by an environment where people feel okay talking about failure, and you wouldn't be afraid of speaking up if you've made a mistake. And you can imagine in some workplaces that has not happened. They are not psychological safe. But in places where innovation is necessary, especially, I think, the idea that we fail often in order to succeed sooner, like that kind of notion is really important. And you can replicate that in your home. So you can enhance psychological safety. Again, if you emphasize that this is a family where it's okay to make mistakes, it's okay to speak up if you've messed up. and you're not going to get in trouble. We want to hear from you when things go wrong, and you won't be penalized for coming forward. It requires, again, curiosity about what happened and a willingness to reflect on those lessons. So I think, on the other hand, when we punish people for failure, we force it underground, where it's shameful and hidden. And in fact, that actually increases the likelihood of more failure. So instead, when families work together to solve their problems, and look for ways out of the setback, and then you can create systems that prevent those kinds of errors from happening in the future.
Yeah. I just read in a book, I think this week, that someone who had come into a job and saw there were things that were wrong and could be improved, and she didn't say anything.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually, I don't know all the details of it. I don't remember, but she ended up getting laid off with the entire rest of the company, because this thing that she noticed that she didn't say anything about created the company to go belly up, basically.
Oh, no.
And so it's like that's something to consider when you're an employee, but also an employer, that
Mm-hmm.
sometimes your employees have ideas on how to make things better, and it's a good idea to listen.
Yeah, absolutely.
And where can our listeners find you?
Great. So my website is jenniferrobinwilson.com. So you can learn more about me as an author there. And I have a link to my book, and you can sign up for my newsletter as well. And my coaching company is called Oak Bay Coaching and Consulting. But you can bounce over to my coaching website from my author website. So yeah, jenniferrobinwilson.com is the easiest way to find me.
Awesome. Well, thank you for being here and sharing with us about what homestay is, and all the wonderful learning opportunities that come from having an exchange student in your home.
Thank you.
And thanks for everything you're doing in the world.
Thanks so much, Alicia.
Absolutely. And we'll have another episode of Imperfect Momming for you all coming next week. And until we meet again, keep healing. Bye, guys.
Thank you for tuning in to Imperfect Momming. It's time for us to step up and realize that our power is not in trying to shape our children. Our power lies in shaping ourselves into the people we want our children to model themselves after. Don't just do it for your kids. Do it for yourself. When you become a more self-aware, compassionate, and confident person, you and everyone around you benefit. For more information about me and my work, visit alicialyons.com. That's ALYSIALYONS.com. And until we meet again, keep healing.